Hi, I'm Jessica Holsapple with SDG Consulting Group, and this is the Systems Culture Growth Podcast. Today, I'm joined by my guest, Gary Varnell, author, speaker, and Gary has over 35 years of corporate business and business ownership experience, and he has written 2 books, Belief, the Foundation of Success, and Ideal Leadership, Transformational Leadership Through Character and Influence. So we will be talking about as much of that as we can cover in this episode, and Gary, a little bit about Gary's story, and hopefully us as leaders can take a few things from this conversation. So welcome, Gary.
Thank you very much, Jessica. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And I wanted to share a little bit about how we met because we're new friends.
We are. Yes, we are.
So Gary and I met at a local healthy cafe, and we struck up a conversation about health and fitness. And then that naturally just progressed into a conversation about our professions. And one thing I was drawn to Gary, one reason I was drawn to Gary was that you seemed really healthy, and not only, physically, but you radiated this energy and charisma that I just thought was, the type of energy I'd like to be around. So I was definitely curious to learn more about you. You seem to kind of have it all from the outside in an initial meeting. Discovering that you're a motivational speaker and you have all of this experience and you've written 2 books, it just shows to me that, that energy really has taken a lot of work and is an internal game. So I want to learn more about you, Gary, and your background, and tell us, besides, me having the opportunity to meet you in person and be drawn towards your energy, why should we listen to you?
Well, first of all, thank you for what you were saying about the introduction and stuff. And I think it's important, and you and I talked about this, is that a lot of motivational speakers, a lot of business coaches, mentors, they don't always have the experience. They have research, and they're talking to their people about things that they've heard, things that they've seen, things that they've researched. And as I discussed with you, and you've read in my books, I learned everything from experience. I grew up in a ghetto in Southeast San Diego called Logan Heights. I lived in an 8x35 trailer, which is like a travel trailer with my mom, dad, and brother. So nothing but gangs, drugs, violence. And because of the things that I talk about, the things that I share as far as principles to success and leadership, I lived those things, and it brought me out of the ghetto to where I was running a company in corporate America at the age of 37. So when you have that kind of experience and you can share that in a simple, concise way, it helps other people get where they want to go if they're willing to apply those principles and do the work.
Really good point. And it's, kind of off initial impressions, we might not understand where you came from and all that you've had to do to overcome adversity and to reach the level of success that you have in your career. So I appreciate your transparency in your background, and it really helps set this conversation up because you had mentioned you did all this through experience. And as leaders, we can really only lead others to the level of our experience, which means we need to consistently keep growing and evolving over time to become the best leaders that we can.
I agree with that 100%. In fact, I continue to learn. I learn from people like yourself, your perspectives, how you see things. I learn from the servers that I go to a restaurant with. I learn from everyone because everyone has a perspective that if you're humble enough to accept, you can apply it. And, some of the things I hear and learn aren't applicable to my belief system and my integrity system, and I don't put those in my system. But, we can always learn, and that's something that I think most people stop doing. They go to college, they go to high school, they may go to college, but once they leave college, they think they're done. I continue to read books. I continue to listen to speakers. I continue to go to seminars. I have mentors that I meet with on a monthly basis because there are people out there that know more than me, And the more wisdom I gather from other people and add to my own, it created massive success in my life.
That's great. And you had mentioned a couple of key things that I think are really important for anyone that is growing and evolving or believes that they're on the verge of that. So I've gone through a lot of what I would call transformational changes in my life where, they're really big, pivotal changes that either happen in a short amount of time or a long amount of time. But it did require humility for me to accept that the things I was doing weren't working and I needed to seek outside myself to gain a new perspective. But you also touched on understanding yourself and your belief system. Mm-hmm. So how do we know ourselves at a deeper level so that we can stay true to ourselves, but know when it's also the right time to learn and grow? Or how would you say we balance those two things?
I always think it's time to learn and grow because we can learn and grow from everyone around us. But I do believe, I'll just talk about that part first. I do believe that who we surround ourselves with is of utmost importance because those are the people that we gain the wisdom from, and all the people that I was around that shared ideas, their wisdom, how they created success. That's how I created my success, by taking all those things and adding it in with what I already believed. But creating my belief system was started by, I think we had talked about, my mom was a minister, and many of the success principles in life are biblical. Leadership principles are biblical. As a motivational speaker, I put them in the secular language so that people understand them, but everything comes from that. And that was my upbringing. That was my belief system. And those things transformed into my integrity, my character, being honest, all the things that it takes to be successful. I added those things in from that upbringing.
And if I'm referencing the right place in your book, the book Belief, looks like you talk about belief and other principles: belief, vision, goal setting, planning, work ethic, perseverance, personal growth, lifelong learning, affiliations and building relationships, well-rounded life, body, spirit, soul, communication and listening skills, excellence and humility. And to adapt all those success principles could take a lifetime, I think.
Yeah. Well, I've done it over a lifetime, but I implemented a lot of those very early in life. And what happens is we just add another one. You mentioned the physical part of it. I played basketball through college, and I've always kept in shape because when I'm healthy, I have a different projection to other people. They perceive me as being healthy, being fit. My attitude is something that I developed. It's something that we have a choice. Our attitude is a choice. Our perseverance is a choice. Everything that you mentioned, we have a choice to do or not to do. So when you're adding those in, you're adding them in a little at a time. You may not have many of them. You may have a lot of them. But the ones that aren't there, if you see them as valuable in what you're trying to pursue, then you add them. But I think the first one you mentioned was belief. If you don't believe it here first in your mind, you're never going to accomplish it because your mind turns off the ideas, the plans, and how to get where you want to go in life. So if you believe in yourself, you believe in your plan, you believe that you can and will accomplish that plan, and you believe you deserve it, then nothing can stop you. Nothing.
Yeah. So you're talking about a particular mindset where you're believing in yourself. And I think entrepreneurs are willing to take the risk because they believe in themselves to some degree, right? But I also think just like we're doing anything in life, if we're trying to reach monumental fitness goals, for instance, I know someone that's lost 100 pounds. That's a very big accomplishment, right? And it not only takes the initial belief, but you've got to set yourself up for success. You've really got to surround yourself, like you're saying, with the types of relationships that are going to support your healthy goals. So if you're a smoker and you're trying to quit smoking, you should stop hanging out with smokers, right? Or at least limit your exposure. Or, if you're trying to lose weight, we know that that's, an uphill battle. So you want to surround yourself with healthy minded people whenever possible so that you're kind of striving and there's these other people that can help hold you accountable. In your book, Ideal Leadership, you also talk about the be, do, have model, which is one of my favorites for its simplicity. When you are trying to overcome something, you've really got to think your way through it. And simple principles and simple, phrases that can help remind you of that are key to kind of unlocking that first action step. So could you explain the be, do, have model to us?
Yeah, most people, be, do, have is the right way to do it. Most people look at that and they want to have it, and they don't want to really, they'll do, and then they become. You have to become the person that deserves that success first. We were talking earlier about doing the work, right. Working on yourself, becoming a better version of yourself. When you become, and then you take action and you do, that's when you have. And most people don't do it in that order, but that's the only order that works. If you do it in any other order, you won't reach the level of success that you're looking for because you haven't become the person that deserves it. You haven't become the person that has that wisdom, that knowledge, that expertise. So it's all about working on ourselves to become and then taking the action, which is do, and then you will have what you're wanting to have.
Yeah.
And I think that's really simple.
Yeah. And it sounds simple particularly because it's been simplified for us, right? The actions aren't easy though. It's simple. Could we maybe go through like a little thought experiment of, if we're looking to have something, a successful business, $1 million, a beautiful wife, whatever the case might be, how would the be, do, have model apply? So maybe we could use a goal of, having a business that generates $1 million in revenue. What would we need to do as business owners?
So as a business owner or a CEO, whatever, to become that, you have to, I always tell people that want to be promoted in a position that you have to become that person at that level. You have to have that kind of knowledge. You have to have that kind of experience. You have to work on yourself to be at that level. So if you want a business that makes $1 million a month, let's think about what it takes to be that kind of an individual that can run that kind of a business. What kind of knowledge do you need? You got to work on yourself to become that person, and then you have to create that plan to get there. The action is the do of the do is the planning. And then taking action on that plan. So we have to become that person first. If you want a beautiful wife or a handsome husband, you have to know what you're looking for first also. You and I discussed that. We have to know if we're going on vacation, we have to know where we're going first. You got to know what you want. You got to know what that is specifically so that you can become that person and then take the actions necessary to get what you want in life.
Okay, great. So clarity around what it is you're trying to achieve or what you want to have. Yep. And then sitting back and visualizing, who do I need to be to have this thing that I'm trying to obtain? And and then from there, what are the action steps that I need to take? So if I want a healthy, happy relationship, I need to be someone that's going to attract a healthy, happy relationship.
Absolutely.
And visualizing a version of myself that would be able to do that. And then breaking down the action steps. What is it that you are going to do to become healthy and happy and someone that would attract that?
Exactly. Most people don't like to take that middle step, which is to create that plan and take the action.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people, you could use a lot of different language around kind of like manifesting your goals or your dreams or whatever it might be. But it really is about being clear in your intentions and then actually taking the practical steps. It's not about wishing it so or feeling entitled to anything. It is about embodying those goals that you're trying to achieve and then taking the necessary action steps. And I think it's really or I know it's really difficult to do that when you only have this perspective of you, which is why we should be seeking out mentors, coaches, someone that's been where you are trying to go. So that was certainly something that I reached out to you about, because I was like, wow, Gary's been where I want to go. You've, been successful in business longer than I've been alive. So I would absolutely be depriving myself if I didn't think there was something I could learn from you. So seeking out that leadership, surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you achieve the type of goals, and then actually doing the work, right?
Yes. The work is the hard part, the training. If you're, I mentioned I played basketball in college. It was the training. No one wants to train. No one wants to practice. No one wants to work on themselves. No one wants to work on that plan. But without that, you can't be proficient at what you want to do in order to get what you want to have. So it's all about that plan. It's all about the activities daily that take you to where you want to go. Mm-hmm. You talked about the CEOs and do you want to be $1 million entrepreneur? How do you do it? There's lots of examples out there. I've read about lots of leaders that we have in our society today, and I've studied them and I've looked at what they've done and the kind of person that they were and things that were said about them. And those are the things that I tried to emulate, the ones that I thought were important. I tried to emulate those. And as you do it over and over and over again, they become habit and who you are. Mm-hmm. So that's a simple way of doing it.
Yeah. So emulating, seeing someone with a level of success that you're trying to achieve in any area of life, and then emulating them or becoming that type of person. And through the practice, you really are evolving and transforming yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Incredible. So one thing we've also talked about is so many people talk about it, and many people might attend your conferences, your workshops. I've been to Tony Robbins with 10,000 plus people. I actually, little funny story. I actually met someone at a networking event that had told me they had been to, it was like 7 or 10 Tony Robbins events. And these are thousands and thousands of dollars each. And so I said, that's great. Like, what do you do in your business? And she said, I'm still thinking about what I should do for my business. And I said, great. Is there anything I could do to, support you? And she said, please don't pressure me. And I was just, so there's people out there that will consume the information and feel like they know they need to make a change. Why do you think it's so hard for people to actually take that step, to take action, to get what they want out of life?
First of all, the word you just mentioned is one of the reasons, change. They don't like that word. So change is difficult for everyone. Most people don't like to think about change. But what I like to share with people is that if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. And if you expect anything else, you're crazy, because that's the definition of insanity, is to do the same thing and expect different results. So for most people, if they think about just adding something into what they're already doing, tweaking what they're doing as opposed to changing what they're doing, maybe it's not so hard for them to want to do it. But in order to create the next level of success, they can't keep doing what they're already doing. Mm-hmm. They have to do a little more. They have to do it a little differently. They have to take time to figure out what it's going to take to get there. And, a lot of people don't want to take the time to, one, clarify where they're wanting to go, set those goals, and then once they set those goals, they really aren't interested in doing what it's necessary to get there. Right. You and I have talked about, I've done business coaching, and I've fired many of my clients because we discuss, here's what it's going to take. We create a plan. And then the next week when we meet, they didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And I don't need the money, but if they're not willing to do the work, I don't want to spend my time. My time is valuable to me. I could use it personally. So, but it's about them. Mm-hmm. It's their action. They have to do it. They have to make these changes. They have to do things differently. And a lot of people are stuck in their old habits, and it's so hard to change habits.
It absolutely is. And like you said, change is really hard. It's scary, right? And when you're talking
Yep.
about transformational change, something that's going to significantly change who you surround yourself with, the type of money that you're going to make, what your business looks like, the lifestyle that you have to have. I think that's, or I know it's a common thing when entrepreneurs grow their companies or business leaders grow their companies. It starts off as one thing, right? And maybe that thing is within your control. You've got a couple people working for you. You're managing your schedule as best as possible. And then you keep dreaming of this next level of success, this next revenue generating or next revenue milestone or next size your team. But yet those same habits don't necessarily apply to the next step.
No.
And it really does significantly change how you operate in the world if you want to get to that next level, or you have to be willing to do that. And I think for me personally, whenever I've made a change in my life, I have had to commit and want that thing more than I want to be comfortable. And it is such a fine line, let me tell you. And I think with any kind of change, you can anticipate falling backwards several times, fall down 7 times, get up 8 kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a personal anecdote or story of a time that you made a significant change in your life and what kind of mindset you had to have in order to do that?
Yes. Can I make one comment
Please.
first? Okay. Until the pain of change is greater than the pain of remaining the same, you will not change.
That's so true.
It is so true. So early when I was very young, growing up in that ghetto I mentioned earlier, most young men have a goal to play professional sports to get out of the ghetto, and I was no different. When I was young, I was I had a lot of God-given attributes where, for those of you who know football, I ran a 4.3 second 40 on grass with football cleats when I was 16, which is world-class speed on a track, let alone grass. And I had a 42-inch vertical. And if I touched the ball, I caught the ball. So I had all the attributes of a professional football player at age 16. Well, I broke my neck the summer after that. And so with the broken neck, I wasn't able to play football ever again. Doctor came in, said, got good news, got bad news. You're not paralyzed. That's your good news. Bad news is you can never play football again. So I had to make a change. I had to figure out which direction I was going to go. What was I going to do? And because I was a decent athlete, my junior year started concentrating on basketball, and was able to work hard. I created a plan. I worked on fundamentals every day for hours and hours and hours, weekends, all day. So that, because I was starting late on that particular sport, in order to get good, I was good enough to get a basketball scholarship to play basketball through college. So I had a free education, but I was too late getting started in order to make it into the professional ranks. I played 10 years of pro summer leagues and those kinds of things. But then I had to make another change. Corporate America. I had to change my mindset to go in that direction, and I had to figure out what it was going to take, what I wanted to do, how much money I wanted to make, and then I found the career that was going to give those things to me, and I focused on that and created a plan to get there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You'd said with the basketball that you focused on the fundamentals every day.
Yes.
So dribbling, shooting, it's been a long time since I played basketball, so I almost forget what's outside of dribbling and shooting.
Rebounding, playing defense, running, all the things that,
Yeah. I think a lot of people, particularly fast-paced, visionary CEOs, entrepreneurs, what we would consider drivers that just like to move fast and break things, right? I think for a lot of us, the fundamentals are boring, right? The day in, day out habits that create success. What would you say to someone that is they're shaking their head, they're nodding that you have to dribble, you've got to practice your shot day in, day out. The fundamentals are important, but they just can't seem to bring themselves to perhaps have the discipline to do that.
Well, then unfortunately, if you don't have the discipline in sports or in business to be proficient, to work on your fundamentals of your business, those things that create production for you, the sales, whatever it happens to be, then they're going to stay at the same level. Because at every level, when you master the fundamentals, let's just say basketball I was mentioning, if you've mastered the basic fundamentals of dribbling, shooting, passing, playing defense, now you got to do it at a higher level. You have to do it quicker. You have to do it better. You have to actually have more moves with the ball. So at every level of success, you have to actually master those next levels of fundamentals, because they actually get harder and harder and harder until you become a Michael Jordan or a CEO.
Right.
So every level that you reach in business, you use those same fundamentals because you may be training someone else with those as a leader. And then you have to add more fundamentals to yourself on that level as a leader to become a proficient leader. So you're always going to be working on and adding fundamentals for whatever level you're reaching and or want to reach.
Yeah, great point. So mastering the fundamentals before you can get to the next stage, because it's only getting harder from there, right?
Yeah, you just add more.
Yes. Okay. So the proficiency in those daily habits. And what I found through trying new things and doing my best to have a beginner's mindset, which is really difficult sometimes, is that you really surprise yourself once you just get started. And an example of that would be, I decided recently I wanted to learn how to do push-ups. I didn't want to do girl push-ups anymore. I wanted to do real push-ups. And you start with one. You start with one with proper form. And now, I'm pumping out 15 like it's nothing in just a few weeks, because you go daily habitual practice. You start with one, you improve. And there's something about that sense of accomplishment too, that you can have. And that adds to your level of confidence so that you can go into your next endeavor knowing that, all right, practicing these fundamental skills is really boring, or it's going to be really hard in the beginning, but I know that I've accomplished this before with my own doing and persistence and discipline. And you can adopt that mindset to apply to anything in life. Would you agree?
Everything. The sports analogies I know are used all the time, but that's because they apply to business.
Right.
It takes consistent, persistent effort over time to create success in business or in sports. It doesn't matter. It takes humility to learn from others in business or in sports. And that's probably the hardest thing for most people, is the humility part, because most people, especially the high achievers, people that are like top salespeople, or top in what they do, they think they know everything. And if you share the wisdom with them, they may not accept it. So people who have that wisdom won't even share it with them. So having that humility is so important, to know that you don't know everything, because you don't. I don't know everything, and I've been around for a long time. And I still am humble enough to listen to anyone who's willing to share their perspective, and I'll either accept it or not, depending on my feeling, if it fits my vision, my belief system.
Right. And humility is important, because if you think you're the best, you don't need to learn anything else. There's someone out there that's hungrier, right? There's someone out there. There's your competition, whether it's on your same sales team that sees you as kind of the competition, and they're consistently doing the foundational work and incrementally improving so that they can kind of beat you out. Or there's this quiet startup in the corner that's not bragging about who they are or what they are doing. They're just simply doing the work, and those companies might surpass you because they just were hungrier, right?
Exactly. Business and in sports again. If you think you're so good and you play someone who's not so good, they'll beat you.
I think that's such a lesson for adolescents when they play high school. They're the star of their high school team, and then they go to college and they're like, not even in the starting lineup, right? Or
they're They're the big fish in the small pond.
Yeah. And that's, I've seen that humbling experience for a lot of friends that, were athletes at a high level. It's really an interesting thing to kind of go from the top dog to being the, small fish in the big pond. So, or other way around. So, thank you so much for all that you've shared so far. In these two books, Ideal Leadership and Belief, what else do you think is a really important takeaway for CEOs, entrepreneurs, business leaders out there listening?
Well, one is about the success principles, and I'll touch on that. The Belief book is about success, creating more success. And I think it is important, and we've touched on it several times, is to continue to learn and to continue to apply those same principles, because you may reach a level of success, but if you don't keep striving, learning, and pushing forward, you can actually lose that level of success. You can go backwards because other people, as you mentioned a few moments ago, will surpass you. So I think it's important that people continue to want to become better. People want to continue to be a better leader, better at sales, better in every aspect of their lives, because personally it affects us in business. So as we continue to become a better version of ourselves, things around us become not easier, but we become better. So things happen for us that won't happen for other people. And we'll be able to get more wisdom from other people, because if you're a great person, if you have a great attitude, if you're humble, if you look like the person who's doing the work, those people who know what it takes to get to that next level are going to share with you. They're going to want to help you. They're going to want to hold your hand here and there to get you where you want to go, because they see that you're that person that's hungry, that's deserving of that next level of success. So continue with all those things, because at every level, you're going to need them again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to kind of piggyback on that, one thing I hear a lot is when you're running a business by yourself, you can feel alone, right? Even if you have people working for you or around you, ultimately at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. Yeah. And that can be a lonely position. But sometimes I think we do it to ourselves because we're not open to feedback, or we're not humble enough to allow others to share their perspective. So really, I think it's a practice, right? It's a practice to acknowledge all that you've accomplished and be grateful for that, and maybe even look into what helped you get to where you are today. But then humble yourself enough to know that there's always a next level. And in your book, Belief, chapter 5, you talk about taking responsibility. I wanted to highlight that one. So everything we've been talking about is really about self-ownership, right? Taking responsibility for ourselves, our success, our future, our lives, our well-being, our happiness, our health. So I guess maybe the last question before I ask you how people can find you is, what does it mean to you to take responsibility?
I didn't know you were going to talk about that, but that's one of my favorite things to share with people, because it is so important. And most people don't realize this, or they don't think about this, or they don't put it in these terms, but everyone, myself, you, everyone that's going to hear this is right where they're supposed to be based on the habits they've created and the choices they've made. And until they take responsibility for that, what they'll do is they'll continue to blame other people. They'll blame their parents, they'll blame their teacher, they'll blame their boss. And if they don't take responsibility, that does not allow them to move forward. But here's the beautiful part about all this. It's a choice. If you take responsibility, you can choose another direction today. You can make different choices starting today, and you can be in a different place tomorrow. And that is a fact. All you have to do is make that choice, take on that responsibility, and start moving forward in a different direction. And you can have the success that you want to create in life. That's
beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I know I could open up all the cans of worms, right? And have you speak just on taking responsibility. And perhaps that hit a couple of people in a way that they weren't expecting either. So we'll leave that right there. But if people want to learn more about you and perhaps hire you as a speaker or get your books, where can they find you?
It's a pretty difficult website. It's www.garyvarnell.com. And there's a section on there about speaking, what I speak on. They can actually book me from a contact sheet right there. And for those that like a daily positive post, I post on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Monday through Friday, it's a positive quote, and then I put a thought to it. Because I think it's important to start each and every day on a positive note so that you're going in the right direction that day.
Yes. And I've asked you to hold me accountable to my own daily morning ritual. So I'll share more about that later, but thank you. I think I'm on day 11 or something about setting my intentions and visions. So anywhere else we can get daily inspiration is incredibly important. So thank you for sharing that. And like Gary said, it's hard to find him. It's Gary Varnell in Google everywhere. And you can find his website. It is really beautiful. There's, like he said, a link to a contact page where you can purchase his book and other helpful resources. So if you liked what Gary had to share, please follow him and learn more about him. And if you are interested in getting more episodes like this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can visit systemsculturegrowth.com. Thank you so much for joining me, Gary. Really appreciate it. And I've learned so much.
My pleasure. It was a pleasure to be on here with you, Jessica.